He still has, I think he said he has something like almost 20 recording sessions left before the game comes out. They're still working on this thing. It's still moving. It's still going from there. What is up, everybody? It is Jake back with the MF Film Room. Thank you so much for being here. If you want to be up to date on all things EA college football, hit that red subscribe button right now. Do it. I'm telling you right now, okay, it will benefit me a lot, and all it's going to cost you, the negatives for you, is you're only going to find out more information about EA college football as it comes out. Hit that red subscribe button. Also hit the like button. Helps me out with the algorithm. And follow me on Twitter/X. That fam is growing. If you like college football content, go to my link in the description for Master Football with Jake Posey. That channel is about college football content specifically, but enough about all that. We're talking about EA college football content right now. Let's go. All right, guys, so there's been more and more news leaking in every single day here about EA college football. I wanted to go over something because whenever Kirk Herbstreit brings himself up, you gotta pay attention to it. As a matter of fact, the source for him was a channel that's actually not even really dedicated to EA college football, but he was brought on it because the owners of and the creators of the show are his sons. So here we are on the Street Talk Show, and we see the fact 1,400 subs, 61 videos, and again, checking out what they do in their videos here. A lot of what they do is a lot of movie breakdowns. They got, Jake plays a horror game. Again, it's got Jake and Ty, and I think that it's Jake and Ty, and I might be wrong on that one here, but you see the fact that they mostly talk about videos. They talk a little bit about video games, just a lot of basic things here all over the place. We see Shane Gillis. We see breakdown of the top 10 teams in college football, lots of things like that. But coming over here to their lives, most recently, and again, this is streamed on 3/5/2024, but again, we talk about this here, that they talk specifically about NCAA to football 25 with their dad. Now come over here and check this out. I want to actually break this down because there's an important thing to remember here with these guys, and you can definitely tell it throughout the video. I want to make sure that we're clear that most of the fans of EA college football are very, very antsy. Again, we see the fact that with the EA connection, EA has, let's just say, a reasonably checkered past when it comes to making video games. So a lot of people are antsy towards this game. They want it to be good. The excitement to, stress levels for this game coming out are very, very high. With both of these guys here, this is not their wheelhouse, and you're able to tell it pretty early within the interview. Like I said, both of these guys talking about graduating college and things like that, so they're probably in their early 20s. It was a little rough for this interview. I'll kind of break down what went over it because a couple of the things were not so great, just from a logistic perspective. The next things that weren't great were the fact that they didn't really have a lot of predetermined questions here, but Kirk was able to provide some important things that I think is important to talk about. So the first thing here throughout this interview is the fact that for some reason, I don't know what it was, but Kirk's connection was kind of bad. So again, they're talking about changing the streaming software and whatever it is, but he had difficulties connecting here. He would go through an answer, it would kind of cut out. So even if we were to get a lot of the answers that we were looking for from Kirk, we couldn't really hear it. In addition to that, I don't know which one it was, but one of them had, and this is a classic setup, I actually have a keyboard that is disconnected from my computer to make sure that you can't hear when I type. There was a couple times during this where they actually, like I said, these guys, they're still figuring it out. Okay, I was early. I was not very good in some interviews that I've done really early, and this just didn't go very well from a logistics perspective, just getting the questions and asking them out there. Now, from the logistics perspective, something that also didn't go very, and again, like I said, if these guys keep on doing this the way they're doing it, by the time they get to my age, they're going to be 15,000 times better than me. So I don't want this to be too much of a criticism of them, but I know the EA college football community, and they're expecting streamline with what you're talking about. Unfortunately here, the other thing here is you could tell that with these questions, actually, as a matter of fact, throughout this, at the end of this interview, basically Kirk was like, okay, you guys should have given me these questions and I should answer them. Because every single question that they asked him for about the first 30 minutes, they would ask a question about a feature, and he would either say, I don't know, or he would say, I literally can't tell you, non-disclosure agreements and so on. So they asked a couple questions there. There was a question about mascot mashup, and he's like, I don't know or I can't tell you. There's a question about equipment. I don't know or I can't tell you who's going to be the best player in the game. He actually was able to glean some information from that. We'll talk about it here in a second. The other things here, okay, are they going to have, road to glory? Are they going to have this? Okay, they're going to have that. Didn't really have specific answers for them. Again, for them, I do think that when they interview him next, because he even said, he's like, send me some questions. I'll ask my guy, and whatever I can tell you, I will bring to them. So again, right now, this interview, not exactly what you want. The cool thing to see this was just to see the fact that two sons and their dad kind of shooting the crap back and forth with each other. That dynamic was good. But in terms of gleaning a lot of information from EA college football content, it was lacking in a lot of ways. Now, some of the interesting things to talk about were some of the things that they did include. So there was some hypotheticals they talked about and some specifics. One of the coolest specifics that they actually did talk about was he said here, Kirk said that, remember when we used to go to Disneyland? So they would go to Disneyland or Disney World, I believe. I'm not sure if it was California or Florida in that instance, but they would go to Disney and they would go down there for a week. And he was like, a couple of days there, I would kind of peel off and I would go and do some of these voiceovers. So what happened is they would pull me in. This is for NCAA 2004, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14, all those games. He would go in there. He would kind of talk about, okay, we're going to have specific quotes. We want you to, do this, do that. Now they do all of that virtually, so he's able to do it from anywhere. But one of the coolest things that he said was him and Brad Nessler at the time, he's going to be with Chris Fowler on this next game. Brad Nessler at the time, what they would do is they were like, it's kind of weird to have this separator just to be announcing certain things. What if we were to actually put up a video game, actually have somebody else play the game and have us specifically talk about that? What happens if you're on the road and the first play of the game, you throw an interception? What do the announcers say and so on? Those are some really cool things. So they actually literally, as opposed to just kind of doing it like, oh, big play. Oh, that's a pick right there. Little things like that. They actually put it with the game so it would be a lot more smooth. They did that on that game then, and they're starting to do some of that now. Again, he still has, I think he said he has something like almost 20 recording sessions left before the game comes out. They're still working on this thing. It's still moving. It's still going from there. So that was the coolest thing, like I said, the biggest piece of information I could glean from that. Like I said, there was no specifics about gear or this player or that player and so on. There was a couple of things about who he thinks the best player is going to be. He had 3 specific names he had. Shedeur Sanders was up there. The first name he said was Travis Hunter. And Travis Hunter, although Colorado wasn't great, he was one of the best receivers and one of the best corners in college football as a true sophomore. He's an absolute stud. He's going to be really high up there. He also mentioned Carson Beck, possibly Quinn Ewers. We already know that a Starch Lanning, a.k.a. Arch Manning, is not going to be in the game. So Quinn's going to be one of the better players as well. So we talked about those guys. Another cool, interesting thing that he was talking about was the fact that within this game, because of NIL, there's going to be certain players that have the standard issue compensation of $600 plus being in the game and getting a free game. In addition to that, he's like, well, I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be some players who are going to be active players in the game who might have something more. Like I said, Shedeur Sanders is a money pit. Your boy is absolutely he shows up and just the dollar signs go through the roof. He might be included in a higher capacity, whatever that is. So he said that and we're thinking about this. So for Madden out there, one of the interesting things about that compared to NCAA for the longest time was NCAA had a former player on the cover, whereas Madden, other than the year that they had, some historic player, it was a current player on the cover. This, because of NIL, because of the fact of these agreements, this actually might be a situation where you might have active players be on the cover. Like I said, I personally think they even mentioned it here. I personally think current Heisman Trophy, SEC player like Jaden Daniels is probably going to be on the cover. I wouldn't be surprised though if we had an Xbox cover, we had a PC cover, because they've done that before on certain games. We have ourselves, I don't know if there's a PSP cover or whatever the game is going to be, PC cover, so on and so forth. So we're going to see all those things. PS5. Sorry, my PlayStation players. Forgive me. So that would be something there as well. So that's something they kind of hypothesized. And another thing they hypothesized was, and one of the brothers or one of the sons here was like, hey, Dad, you're kind of like smiling about the mascot mashup. Mascot mashup, for those of you who don't know, was basically all of the active physical mascots in the game. You actually could play as them in a feature. It was actually pretty cool. And they also mentioned one person who would be really, really cool commentator in that instance would be the great Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee's not included in the game as far as he knows, but if they wanted to include him, what better person to be in the game than Pat McAfee talking about the Stanford tree doing backflips or the elephant from Alabama catching it one-handed, one-trunked, whatever it is there. So again, this interview right here, you weren't able to glean a lot of information from it. There was some interesting things he did bring up in terms of creation, the process, and so on. Like I said, Kirk's going to be a good repository of information going forward. This one, not as much as you might necessarily want. So we note that the fact that, again, the cool thing about the creation of this game was Kirk even said literally they got to a point where him and Brad Nessler on the previous games would actually watch people play the game and they would actually provide commentary for it to be more realistic. Now, with this new game, like he said, he's still got multiple sessions to get through before the game even comes out. I think he said he's got almost 20. They're still working hard on this game. Again, there was a little hints there, hinted week. We don't know if mascot matchup's going to be in the game. We don't know if Pat McAfee's going to be in the game. Wouldn't be surprised, though. We'll check on that more as the game has the full reveal in May. But so far, Kirk Herbstreit alluding to how the game was made and some things that may or may not be in it. All right, guys, get in the comments right now. What did you think about that interview? And again, if you go out there and check it, like I said, it was a little rough at certain times, just the logistics of the actual interview going on through there. But go check it out and let me know what you guys think. And let me know what else you guys want to know from all this channel, because like I said, I'm going to be making this content for you guys. Remember, please like, share, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. I really appreciate it. So for me, guys, I'll see you guys later. I am out.